We can all think of huge first-round draft busts in the NFL right off the top of our head. Hell, your team probably has a few. Gosh, I know mine does. But all of those draft picks probably made it through their first season with the team, or at least the first preseason with the team, or hell, one day of training camp. Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Maybe not the biggest, but certainly the quickest first-round draft bust of all time, and as we all know, there's nothing worse than busting too quickly.
I'm so sorry. That has never happened to me.
And she made a joke about my Jets hat.
It's also a sad story about a man battling with mental health issues that keeps him from realizing the full potential of his talents. And it's not just a story that begins and ends with a man leaving one day into his NFL career. It's not really the start of the story, and it's sure as hell not the end of it. So with that, let's get into it.
Sports are history.
Dimitrius Underwood, picked 29th overall in the 1999 NFL Draft by the Minnesota Vikings. But first, let's start at the beginning. He was born in Philadelphia in 1977. He would bounce around some in his childhood, but eventually end up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, his father's hometown. There, he would attend E.E. Smith High School and play some football and do a little wrestling, and in his senior year, he would catch the eye of college scouts by racking up 87 tackles with 10 sacks. He also took second in state in wrestling, which I'm sure didn't hurt either. So when Nick Saban comes a-callin', how could he say no? Well, it's not really the Alabama or even the LSU Nick Saban. This was the 1995 Michigan State Nick Saban, but hell, major D1 program, so he accepts the offer and he attends Michigan State. Now, a few months after enrolling in Michigan State, his father would sadly pass of leukemia. I couldn't really find anywhere how this affected Dimitrius. I can't imagine it was positive, and I can only speculate how his life may have been different had he had his father's guidance there. Now, his first year at Michigan State, he would be a reserve player but did appear in 11 games. His sophomore year, he would take over as the starting left defensive end, and his junior year is when he really broke out and made the NFL take notice. In his junior year, he would rack up 57 tackles, 12 for a loss, 8 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles with a fumble recovery. Or at least according to Wikipedia, anyways. And also according to Wikipedia, his best 2 games that year were against Indiana and in the Aloha Bowl. And I say according to Wikipedia because I cannot find references for these stats or these stats really anywhere else on the internet. No idea where Wikipedia got it, but I wanted to find some great footage of Dimitrius Underwood's college career, so I tried to look up these 2 games, and unsurprisingly, you can't really find footage of Michigan State versus Indiana in 1997. But thank you to YouTube channel Jonathan Bunton, you can find the 1997 Jeep Aloha Bowl in all of its original glory, commercials and all. Quite the shot of nostalgia for any 90s kid.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, chili, baby back, rib. I want my baby chili, baby back, rib.
Now, I'm going to show you his best highlights from that game. Let's take a look at them together in the
97 Jeep Aloha Bowl,
where Dimitrius Underwood got 7 tackles, a sack, and 2 forced fumbles. All right, first highlight here. Sheds the block, helps clean up that tackle, and oh, that's a helmet, so it's not a fumble, not one of our fumbles. I'm sure we'll get one here soon, though. All right, good pursuit downfield, make the tackle, and oh, here we go, sack, right? Can't get him. No, he threw it away. Okay, well, sure we have a fumble coming any moment now. No, not there, not yet. All right. And okay, another good tackle. I'm sure there's gonna be a sack or a fumble somewhere in here. Shedding another block for a good tackle. Great. All right. Here we go. Yeah, get him, man. I mean, come the fuck. And that was all of them. Yep. Now, you might be wondering, much like I was, after watching every defensive snap from Michigan State in the 97 Jeep Aloha Bowl, where the fuck are the fumbles? Or even the sack? I mean, what the fuck? Alright, we'll take a look at that last play again. I'll show you the replay of it that the broadcast played, and the commentary team even commenting that maybe it was a lateral.
Michigan State should get good field position. Maybe even go out after it. O'Loughlin. That might even have been a lateral.
That may have been a lateral. They punt the ball away, and they don't really act at all as if that was a sack fumble, nor do they mention it again. So if it was counted as an incompletion, like it was called on the field, that would be nothing more than a QB pressure and the quarterback throwing the ball away for an incompletion. But if the quarterback throws it backwards, it's not a forward pass, then it's technically a fumble because nobody caught that ball, and since the QB was the last one to possess it, it would be a fumble on the QB, and because Dimitrius Underwood was tackling the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage as he was technically fumbling the ball, that would be called a sack fumble. It's kind of like the dry hand job of sack fumbles. You technically got some action, but it's nothing worth bragging about. But even then, that was one fumble. And that was the sack. I mean, that was it. That was his best play. Now you're probably thinking, why are we going on so long about
the 97 Jeep Aloha Bowl?
And it's because, damn it, if I had to dig through this footage and watch every defensive play from Michigan State twice in
the 97 Jeep Aloha Bowl
and came out with that immense disappointment, figured I'd share it with you. We can ravel in the disappointment together. Anyway, this great junior year of his, supposedly, and the fact that he was the co-winner of the Michigan State Ironman Award for weight training,
Your eyes are going to roll up into your head real fast.
well, this would be enough for the NFL to really take notice of him. And we know it was his junior year that the NFL took notice of because he would not play his senior year. No, he had a sprained right ankle that kept him out for the entire year. Yes, it was a little suspicious, and many did not think it was the real reason that he missed the entirety of his senior year. It would later come out that Michigan State doctors had actually cleared him to play again in early October, but Dimitrius decided he wanted to sit out for the rest of the season, and in turn, Michigan State would redshirt him so that he could have another year of eligibility and maybe come back and play the next year. Well, according to Dimitrius, come October, when the doctors had cleared him, he didn't feel his ankle was quite ready to play. But about a month later, with 4 games left, he did want to come back and play, and that is when the coaching staff told him he was done for the year and redshirted him. This did not sit well with Dimitrius, and to the surprise of Michigan State, he would declare for the NFL draft. Now, despite Dimitrius missing his senior year for questionable reasons, the Vikings and their head coach at the time, Dennis Green, still took Dimitrius at pick 29 in the first round of the 1999 draft. This was seen as a big overreach even at the time, as most didn't have Dimitrius projected to go until the 5th, if not as late as the 7th. But the Vikings, see, they felt like they had an extra draft pick to play with that year. So they had 2 first-round draft picks. They also had pick number 11, thanks to a trade from Washington. And with that number 11 pick, they took number 11 Dante Culpepper, who would play for 11 seasons. But at pick 29, they felt like they needed to get their defense up to the next level. See, the Vikings had just come off a season where they had a record-breaking offense, an offense that scored more points in the regular season than any team ever had. A huge reason why their offense was so good was their first-round draft pick from the year prior, Randy Moss. And Randy Moss only fell to them at pick 21 in that draft because he also had character issues coming out of college. So the Vikings, thinking, well, we were able to handle Randy Moss's character issues just fine, and it turned us into one of the best offenses in the league ever. Maybe if we find that same Randy Moss type talent for our defense, it will get us over that Super Bowl hump. Dimitrius was also 6'6", 280 pounds, ran a 4.8 40. My God, the guy was just a specimen. They fell in love with his pre-draft workout. If you talk to the people at Michigan State, including Nick Saban, they will say that Dimitrius was having a hard time handling the expectations of his own success. He couldn't really handle the pressure that was now on him to perform as a top talent. They would also say that they would warn anybody from the NFL that called about Dimitrius's struggles. The only issue, the Vikings never called. Now, of course, the Vikings will say that they did do their due diligence, and in an LA Times article written in October of '99, a Vikings scout, a Roger Jackson, think of a more American name, I dare ya, he would be quoted as saying,
"We did do our homework. That's all I can say. If he fooled us, then he fooled everyone in the league."
In that same article, however, we hear from the Vikings' veteran director of player personnel at the time, a Mr. Paul Wiggins, in the article says, that Paul and the Vikings were suspicious about Underwood's ankle injury and instances of instability, as the article put it. Paul would also be quoted as saying,
"There are some things that make players great that are not necessarily admirable qualities you'd want in a son-in-law. Let's be real. There's some animal in some of these people."
What the hell you mean, you people?
Anyways, what made the LA Times write that article and the Vikings go on the defensive only 6 months after he was drafted? Well, for that, we need to go back to training camp of that year. August 1st, 1999, Dimitrius would sign a 5-year, $5.3 million contract with a $1.7 million signing bonus, which basically means that with a flick of the wrist, Dimitrius would become a millionaire. However, the very next day, on his very first day of training camp and after the very first practice of that day, Dimitrius straight up bounced and hitched a ride to the airport, where he would not be seen until 4 days later in the lobby of a Philadelphia hotel. And there he would say that he is giving up his football career in pursuit of Christian missionary work. He felt that football and his religion came in conflict with each other and that he could not do both. He even gave back his $1.7 million signing bonus, and the Vikings tore up his contract. Now, anybody who spends 4 days of some real soul searching and finds that that is what they need to do in life, hey, more power to ya. And I, wish I could say that those 4 days were enough to really set Dimitrius on his rightful path. But 2 weeks later, the Dolphins would claim Dimitrius off waivers and he would sign with them for $395,000 for 1 year.
Such an incredible demotion.
Dimitrius' time with the Dolphins didn't start off great. He was reportedly having trouble focusing in team meetings, and instead of taking notes, he would be writing about God and the apocalypse. He would also, unfortunately, have a shoulder injury in the very first game of preseason that would keep him out for some time. But he still showed the Dolphins enough that he made the team. Now, when he could have come back healthy to play, we don't exactly know, because after the first 2 weeks of the regular season, Dimitrius decides to go back to Lansing, Michigan. He would take a flight to Detroit, but instead of getting on a connecting flight to Lansing like originally planned, he instead hired a limo driver to drive him there, and during that drive, he would again start rambling, presumably about God and the apocalypse, although I couldn't find the actual details of it. The limo driver would become so concerned that she pulled into a fire station in Lansing and dropped Dimitrius off there. And once there, they would run a background check on Dimitrius and find that, well, he had a warrant out for his arrest for not paying child support for 17-month-old twins. Yeah, see, apparently sometime during that rockin' junior year of his, he was feeling himself maybe a little too much, and, well, hey, life happens. Literally. But Dimitrius would quickly make bail and also spend an extra 90 minutes in that jail just talking with one of the other inmates. It's a small detail, but I think it helps highlight the mental state that Dimitrius was in at the time, which I think can help set us up for what happens next. Dimitrius would go to the mother of his twins' house. Her name was Chastity, and there they would get into an argument that would lead Dimitrius to take a steak knife to his own throat. Many of the articles I read said it was 2 steak knives, so, always good to have a backup. Chastity's father was there and would do what any sensible person would and drive Dimitrius to the hospital. They didn't get far, however, because Dimitrius would run out of the car and down one of the streets in their neighborhood, screaming and ranting about God and still bleeding from the neck. Police would pick him up and they would quote him as saying things like, "You are Satan and you are going to hell, and I want to be saved. I want to meet God." I don't think I did those justice, but you get the idea. Dimitrius would then be placed in protective care, and this is where he'd be officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Maybe we should explain some of Dimitrius's background with religion. His mother, Ellen, was a Pentecostal minister herself, but she would claim that while Dimitrius was in Lansing, Michigan, going to school, he was also going to a church that was really a cult. It was the non-denominational church, the Emmanuel Temple, run by a Reverend Philip Owens, and Dimitrius's mother would be quoted as saying,
"It's a cult posing as a church."
I mean, I have to give it to Ellen. A non-denominational church called the Emmanuel Temple, run by a Reverend Philip Owens. Well, sounds like I'm about to go on a side quest for a Rockstar game.
Reverend, why can't we all just get along? These are good men, Arthur. They're children of God. They're children of God.
There were also a couple other women that would claim that their 20-year-old sons were in financial ruin because of this church. They had given over all of their money so that the church could buy a $7 million sanctuary. And there is also a Michigan State student, a 23-year-old student, who was mysteriously found dead in an open cooler in the basement of his dorm room. And it was never... I didn't see that it was ever actually tied to the church, but it would certainly raise some more eyebrows with them. And with all of these things I just said, I mean, I've heard less culty things, right? I mean, Reverend Philip Owens would, of course, deny this,
My church is no cult. I mean, we just need money for our $7 million sanctuary, and the Lord, He giveth, but not quite that much, so we're gonna need that tithing.
Right? Yeah. Dimitrius's mother, also, again, Pentecostal minister herself. Pentecostals do like speaking in tongues. And I'm not saying that would cause his disorder. I'm not saying any of the religious stuff caused his disorder. I just think with this background, we might see why it took that path as a way to express itself. After 2 months in protective care, Dimitrius would get out and then check himself into a mental health center. Only there he would do the same as he did with the Vikings and his ride to the hospital and pull an old Irish goodbye, leaving without notice only hours into his stay. This was also where the Dolphins finally drew the line and cut Dimitrius in December of 1999. This would not be the end of things for Dimitrius in the NFL. Only a few months later, in March of 2000, the Cowboys would sign him to a 2-year contract. The Cowboys and Jerry Jones felt that they could really help out Dimitrius here. They had a player counseling program that had just seen Alonzo Spellman, a fellow defensive end also struggling with bipolar disorder, It had helped him get his career back on track, and they felt that with the counseling program and Alonso's mentorship, along with him being a fellow defensive lineman, that it could help Dimitrius and get his career back on track. Now, for those of you who know about Alonso Spellman, this did not work permanently. He did have more issues in his life with his disorder, but it did work out for a little bit for him, and for a season, it also worked out for Dimitrius. In the 2000 season, Dimitrius was on the team the entire year as a backup, now moved to defensive tackle as opposed to defensive end. But in that year, he would rack up 23 tackles, 1 for a loss, 4 sacks, and 14 QB pressures, which was good enough to lead the team. So for a backup defensive tackle, that's really good, especially for obvious passing downs. But as I alluded to, unfortunately, this success would not carry over, and it would not set him on the right track. Not long after the Cowboys season was over, in January of 2001, in the Miami suburb of Coral Springs, Florida, Dimitrius would try to take his life again. This time by running out into a busy highway twice. Always good to have a backup. Now, on the first attempt, he would run out in front of a minivan, which was luckily able to stop right before hitting him. The driver, in an ESPN article, was quoted as saying,
"He thrust his hip out to me, expecting to be hit. When I stopped, he was right in front of my van."
The driver then said he just walked off. They would go and call 911 from a payphone. Isn't the past quaint? But Dimitrius would then go and try it again. This time, he kicked a Honda Accord that was driving down the road. He dented the car, took off its side mirror, and it only cut his knee. I mean, no wonder the NFL kept giving this guy shots. I mean, a car driving down the highway. I didn't see how fast it was going, but the driver had to stop his car and turn around and come back. So, I mean, he kicked a car driving down the damn road, took off its side mirror, and all it did was cut his knee. When the driver did come back to confront Dimitrius, he was quoted in that same ESPN article as saying,
"I thought he just kicked it for the hell of it. Then he told me he wanted to die. He said it was what the Bible wanted him to do."
Dimitrius was then detained by police, put into a psychiatric unit. I could not find how long he was there. I don't think it was very long, because Dimitrius would be back on the Cowboys in the 2001 season, just not for too long. He was there for about 4 weeks of the regular season and was cut in October of 2001, which would officially mark the end of his NFL career. Things did not get better for Dimitrius after this, unfortunately. The next year, in 2002, he was arrested, this time for aggravated robbery on a paraplegic driver, which does not mean that he robbed a paraplegic while they were in the driver's seat of their car. From all the accounts that I read, he robbed a man in a wheelchair. You know, a paraplegic driver. So maybe the man was in his car. Later, while editing, I found this article, the only one that had the actual details on what happened here. Apparently, Dimitrius, clearly having an episode with his bipolar disorder, thought he was a police officer, went out to direct traffic in the middle of the street. The paraplegic who was in his car thought Dimitrius was a panhandler, so he offered Dimitrius $5. Dimitrius took offense to this, thinking that the guy was trying to bribe a police officer because, again, Dimitrius thinks he's a police officer, and I guess the paraplegic, that's when he called the cops. And when the cops showed up, Dimitrius resisted arrest, and from what the article said about that, he punched a cop in the face. So at the beginning of all this, his behavior was mostly self-destructive, and it was kind of hard not to feel for Dimitrius. I mean, perhaps he was being a negligent father, but as far as physical harm goes, it really just affected himself. But now he's ran out into the middle of traffic, he's robbed a man in a wheelchair and punched a cop in the face, so things are starting to get a little more serious. And this last incident would land him some time in a closed custody cell. He was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial in 2003 and would be transferred from a Dallas County jail up to North Texas State Hospital. Not sure how long he spent in that hospital, but I don't believe it was too long, because the very next year in 2004, he would be arrested again. This time for something a little less serious. He was in a stalled car in the middle lane of a highway, and he refused to get out of it. Police had to fire pepper balls at the car until he finally did get out of it, and then they took him to the Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas and placed him in their psychiatric unit. No files were charged from this. And this is kind of where the details on Dimitrius's life run out a little bit. The next year in 2005, he did try out for the Ottawa Renegades in the Canadian Football League, but was cut during preseason. The very last definitive thing I could find on Dimitrius Underwood's life was that in 2007, he was placed in the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center and in their unit for the mentally disturbed. He was there from 2007 to 2011. They do house the highest population of Philadelphia's closed custody inmates, although I did not see if Dimitrius was placed into a closed custody cell or not. Again, I couldn't even find the details on why he was arrested and placed there in the first place. Not so fast, me from the past. Okay, so I did a little more research here while editing the video and found some court records, actually, for Dimitrius Underwood being arrested in Philadelphia in 2007, but they actually raise more questions than they answer. I found that in 2007, he was arrested for arrest prior to requisition, which means he had a warrant out for his arrest in another state or maybe even county and was arrested in Philadelphia and being held there until he could be moved, which doesn't make a lot of sense because he served time in a Philadelphia prison, not even like a Pennsylvania state prison. It's a prison ran by the city of Philadelphia. Now, I did search for 2007 arrests or court records in Florida, Texas, and Michigan to see if he was transferred to any of those states there, and I found absolutely nothing. I also saw in 2012 he was arrested for, yikes, indecent exposure. And then again, I guess he didn't serve too much time for that one because he was again arrested in 2013 for possession of instrument of crime with intent, which means he had a weapon and was intending to use it unlawfully. Now, I again didn't see how much actual time he served for any of these or the details on them, what that indecent exposure actually was, or, you know, if he used a weapon, or I guess was just in possession of it and what he intended to do with it. I'm also not that well versed in researching court documents, so there definitely could have been something that I missed. And I also saw that in these Pennsylvania court records, that his birthday was off by a year. This one has him born in March 29th of 76, where everywhere else I saw on the internet, he was born March 29th of 77. So, either there is another Dimitrius Underwood, born exactly 1 year before our Dimitrius Underwood, who was also arrested in Philadelphia in 2007. And Dimitrius Underwood, not like the most unusual name, right? But from when I was looking up court cases in other areas, it's not exactly a common name either. So it's probably more likely that either the Pennsylvania courts or the rest of the internet just got his birthday off by a year. Yeah. Anyways, back to me in the past to finish out this video. Now, I do know that in 2022, he was inducted into his high school sports hall of fame, the E.E. Smith Sports Hall of Fame, but it didn't say if there was any sort of ceremony for this or if, you know, Dimitrius showed up to be honored or anything like that. Again, I have no idea where he's at. The rumors say he's still in the Philadelphia area. I would like to know if he's doing okay, if anybody knows if he's, you know, gotten his life hopefully back on track and is doing all right, maybe reconciled with his kids who would be fully grown and almost 30 now. I hope that they have found peace in their life. Again, if anybody knows anything about Dimitrius currently, or hey, if I got anything wrong, let me know about it. If you can find those 1997 Jeep Aloha Bowl highlights that I may have somehow missed, like 2 watch-throughs of it, let me know about those as well. And, I'll see you in the next one. Okay, thanks, bye. The
97 Jeep Aloha Bowl.